My Life with Jesi Stracham.
Welcome everyone to the next episode of the My Life With interview series. This week I'm here with Jesi Stracham. So did you want to introduce yourself to everyone, Jesi?
Hey, I'm Jesi Stracham. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, here in the United States. I have initially a T4 injury. I was a complete injury, changed a couple things in my lifestyle, and I started recovering. And so I went my first 2 years completely paralyzed, and now I have a little bit of sensation and movement. I travel as a motivational speaker. I have a business, a nonprofit, and I'm also a student. And I'm here to share how I manage all those things with you guys.
Thank you for joining me. Very, very busy person. And I love following along with you. And when you wake up in the morning, you always have something motivational to say. And I love it.
I know everyone's like, I'm waiting for a nip slip. And I'm like, there's not going to be a nip slip, people.
There really was almost one time.
Oh, there absolutely was. And I was like, oh, it's good. It didn't come out. We're good.
Fine. We're
Gotta
sexy.
keep the people on the edge of their seat, right?
Exactly. I love it. So like with everyone, I thought we could start off with you telling me and everyone following along the main barriers that you face in society.
Oh, between parking and the accessible bathroom stall. It's unreal the amount of times, you go out and it's like, I just want to go to the bathroom, but then you're waiting for whoever to finish their poop. And I mean, I can't even get mad because I was guilty of it. Before my injury, I would go into the accessible stall to poop, especially as a waitress. I'm like, I'm not taking up the littler stalls. No one wants the big stall. Why is it even here? And now, I have an understanding for it. And I think raising awareness would be a game changer. I proposed to our local state legislator to add a simple question to the driving exam, and it's, what are the lines for in an accessible space? Because if you think about how vocal our youth is, if we educate them on that and they see someone parked incorrectly, they'll be more willing to say something, and no one's going to come at a kid for being like, hey, you shouldn't park there. That's for wheelchair users.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, and people should be standing up more and feeling confident. I mean, I'm not trying to promote like vigilantes out there, like being like, get out of there, because obviously
Right.
some people have invisible impairment or, invisible disability. So,
No, it's educating people, regardless of if you have
yeah,
a placard or not, you are not
yeah,
entitled to park on those lines. You're taking away someone's independence, and that's not right.
yeah, yeah. So you need to have your little, what do you call it? A placard? We call
Yeah, the
it,
placard.
I don't, what do we call
What
it?
do you
We
call
call
it?
it a permit. We call it a disability parking permit. So
It
sexy.
sounds so proper.
It really is. It's so proper, except people don't fucking care and they just park there anyway. Are there any other main barriers I guess you face?
When I was first injured, I faced a lot more, but I forced myself to get out. And so like,
Yeah. And I guess like I feel very similar to you in terms of like there were way more access barriers when I first had my injury, which is about 5 years ago. I found that like over that time, like I've been forced to get over certain barriers, so I have. But then I find that's an issue in itself because it's like we still need to identify those because other people shouldn't have to go through that trauma of like facing the barrier, forcing themselves to like find a way around it. Like it just everything should be way more inclusive, basically.
so that's actually that leads into the Wheel with Me Foundation, because I want to build a transitional community to teach individuals how to be wheelchair users. All those things that we had to learn. What if
Yeah.
we gave the individuals those skills to begin with and shortcut that learning curve? I think
Yeah.
it would create a lot more confidence, because when people are faced with these barriers, now they're prepared. Because
Yeah.
realistically, I mean, the ADA was put into act in 1991, 1992, and it hasn't changed since. It's very outdated. It needs attention, but nothing, it's not happening. And
Yeah.
there's only so many of us advocating. And so
Yeah.
it's like, what if we help people and shortcut that? Because realistically, it's not going to change overnight. And we
No.
still need contributing members of society. Here in the United States, 51% of the spinal cord injury population lives on some type of government assistance, whether that's our Medicaid, Medicare, disability services, vocational rehab, whatever it is, they rely on government assistance for their independence. And my goal is to help reduce that number, especially because we're a growing population.
Yeah, for sure. That's amazing. So that's obviously the foundation that you're like the founder and director of, called We're With Me. So I'll tag
Yes.
that in this interview as well. We spoke about the foundation side of We're With Me, but you also have a more kind of commercial kind of brand side to We're With Me as well. So I really wanted you to talk about that because we need to plug all the amazing things that you're doing.
So we have Wheel With Me Foundation, which is actually a separate entity. And then I have Wheel With Me Consulting, LLC, which is my actual personal business. We started it last February. And originally it was just a place for me to filter my speaking engagements through. And then I was trying to get into big business and help them with their disability services. So like a grocery store, for example, let us show you how to make things a little more accessible for a wheelchair user. And then it ended up turning into even bigger. So I released a fitness clothing line at the beginning of this year. I'm working on expanding the sizes because I am a startup and everything is out of pocket. Right now, the sizes are very limited, but we offer front zipping sports bras, which is huge. The zipper actually is pretty big on it as well, so it's pretty accessible in that aspect. I have leggings, fitness leggings, crop tops, there's t-shirts, hoodies. So it's expanding. I created a calendar. So last year I did this calendar from cover to cover. That's on there. And it's just, I didn't do anything different. I just took the risk. And I think that's the biggest thing that stops people is they're so scared of failing. And I'm like, I've been speaking, I have this money, I might as well use it for something, try and expand my business. And I'm like, if I fail, I fail. But if I don't do it, then I'll never know what could come from it,
To go. So that's awesome. Yeah. I do a little bit of consulting work myself and it can be so empowering. It can sometimes be very frustrating, but it can be so empowering, especially when you get good results and you can see them being implemented. So that's awesome. Well done. Everyone needs to go check it out. I'll definitely tag it. Next thing I thought we could move on to is a recent positive and a recent negative experience you've had.
Let's start with the negative because I always like to finish on a good note. So the negative one definitely has to be the bathroom situation. I went to this place in South Florida called Drive Shack, which is like a Topgolf. It's like a driving range or whatever. And I went to the bathroom twice. And both times, every other stall was open except for the accessible one. And so I knocked on the door. The first time it was an employee, which the manager was actually in the bathroom with me because she had opened the door. And she's like, if that's an employee, I'm going to say something. And so she like reprimanded the employee about it. And then the second one was another person that was there. And I knocked on the door. I said, hey, I'm about to pee myself. Are you almost done? And she's like, yeah. And then came out and got an attitude and then started talking crap. And I'm like, look, lady, like I don't have the luxury of going into the smaller stalls. I knocked in this, and then on my flight home, it happened at the airport, of course. Every stall's open except for that accessible one. And I knocked and I was like, hey, are you going to be much longer? I'm about to pee myself. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to try and squeeze in this other stall because this is the only one I can actually get into comfortably. And I think it's just people don't know. Like, I can't even get mad at it because before I was paralyzed, I would do the same thing. When I waitressed, I would go take my poop in the big stall because I was like, this is the big stall. No one wants to use it. What's it even here for? And now I understand. And it's like, I think a lot of the struggles that we face is just lack of education and understanding that these things are implemented for a reason. People parking on the access aisle for the parking. They don't realize that that's somebody's independence. And
well, I think it's just like this perception that it's like, oh, I won't get caught. There's not really many people out there that are like using this anyway. It's just here because they have to have one. And it's like, that's not actually true.
To be continued. Sex, representation, and social media.